Hey there folks, Micah Curtis here, and welcome back to the Overflow. We answer all of the questions from the podcasts that we sadly were not able to get to. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as The Hatman.
And we have a lot this week, believe it or not. Mostly because we had a bit of a bigger crowd this week. And we appreciate all the new people for coming in. I hope that you really enjoyed yourself, and hopefully you'll continue to watch as time goes on. So, let's go ahead and get to the fun stuff. We're going to go ahead and start with politics this week. The first one that was actually at the top was, I think, the last question we answered on the politics podcast on whether or not we think that Joe Kennedy will try to run against Trump in 2020. So Melee Brawler 64, that one's at the end of the politics podcast if you want to see that answered. Brian Gilmartin asked, do we see the irony in the Chinese referring, or any irony in the Chinese referring to the SJW crowd as Baizuo, which means white left, after all their LARPing as defenders of oppressed minorities? I don't know if you could get any more ironic. Yeah, I don't think you could get any more, well actually, I don't know if it's ironic, but I think that, well, like Marxists actually getting called out by actual Marxists, but it's definitely appropriate.
Are they really Marxists, or are they more Maoist?
Well, Mao's philosophies came from Marx, so by extension,
yeah. Well,
yes.
it's about to say there's still some distinctions to be made, but just commies being called out by commies, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's what's hilarious about it. But also, I think it's symptomatic of a higher, or of a larger picture, is that social justice warriors in America are largely white, though there's also a significant number that are black. But normally of those two people groups, mostly white people, mostly white males, and they consistently act like they speak for someone else, which is why I find the whole concept of representation to be absolutely ridiculous, because representation is something that you vote on. You know, it's ridiculous. But regardless, yeah, the idea that these folks are speaking for the voiceless assumes, of course, that the other person does not have a voice or something worth listening to, which or is incapable of having an opinion, which none of the above are true for just about anyone, unless you're mute or something. Even then, you got keyboards. So, regardless, I think that it's definitely a statement that they should, if they had any self-awareness, they would look at and say, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. In fact, it was kind of funny. Somebody who has been a guest on our podcast, gosh, why am I forgetting his name?
Oh no.
I am so sorry. Oh gosh, made the
Are you thinking of Timothy Lim?
Tim Lim, that's it. I was trying to remember his last name. But Tim was called a white supremacist by a guy named Liam Robertson, who apparently works on, like, Did You Know Gaming.
Oh, Lord.
So
somebody didn't do their research.
Yeah, I was about to say, and I put on Twitter, I'm like, he's Asian, you moron. So, yeah, it's hilarious. But that was what the whole Not Your Shield thing was about a couple of years back. It was the idea that these folks try to use people who aren't white as their shield to, you know, and as a way to virtue signal, and it's detestable. And I think that more as time goes on, you're gonna see more people who aren't white start sticking up to these people and saying "screw you."
Oh yeah.
That Orthodox guy wanted to know our thoughts on the train wreck in Virginia with the GOP and the Democrat response to the train wreck of thunderous applause. I wish I could say I was surprised.
Yeah, it's wholly expected at this point.
Yeah, it's I think that we have reached a point where people have dehumanized one another to a point where everybody is simply a name on the screen, as opposed to an actual person. You know, Aiden has done a couple of videos on this subject I haven't watched yet, so I'm curious to see what her take on it is, because I've always felt that there is a distinct positive and a distinct negative to anonymity online and the culture that comes with it. I was on a stream. I was pulled in by Synthivine years ago when I was working at Tech Raptor. I was on there with Nicholas Goroff, who would later become Wizard of Cause on YouTube. Who else was in there? Hot Wheels and a couple other people. I have no clue who they are. But we were discussing anonymity and things like that. And, you know, though I expressed this there and I'll express it again now, is that my one worry about it is just that. It's the dehumanizing factor. The positive is that when somebody who is anonymous espouses an idea, the idea either has legs or it doesn't, and the person behind, you can't judge it because of the person behind it, because it's just somebody with an avatar, even if that. So, but the big downside is that, and I think that this has infected our culture in general, as the internet has gotten bigger, is we just don't see people like people anymore. And that's kind of disturbing to me, because if you can't see a person as a person, anything goes. And that's a scary thought.
I think it's also kind of ironic too that nowadays when we use the internet, like, it's a whole lot easier to see each other's faces. Like, you know, with the invention of the selfie, you know, people streaming themselves on YouTube, even, you know, on Twitter and stuff, we can put faces to names a lot easier than we could like a decade ago.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like we're faster to dehumanize them.
Yeah, and it's one thing to add on to that. I don't know if you're about to go into this or not, but it also makes people not think that what their statements about other people are like, that's going to reflect on their character or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. You are thinking what I'm thinking exactly.
Yeah, because we both know I've had this problem this week with people on Twitter. You know, I got attacked randomly by a couple of people who were mad about something, and yeah, it escalated from there into just blind hatred and no discussion of the idea or anything like that, just random insults being thrown here and there. And I just think that that's sort of what the point where we're at is. It's become okay to think that this isn't going to make you look like a jerk.
Or that it's worse, that it's justified in some way.
Well, and that's why I apologize for my hand and that sort of thing to people that were watching, is, you know, and I'll kind of repeat what I said. I'm not sorry that I insulted a guy who misrepresented and lied about what I said, because the reasons that he did it were nefarious. With that said, I am not happy that I was sunk to that level. And then when the second person who came after me, which was the YouTuber Captain Cummings, I didn't insult him at all. I'm just like, no, what you're saying is not true. And I just repeated myself basically over and over as he continued to hurl insults at me for why I don't know. And I think he said something like I had misrepresented a thought of his, and over the whole comic story and drama, I'm like, I don't even know what you think about it. Sorry. So I don't even know what the hell that was all about. But I think that that's just a decent example of like how this is just like on the micro level of what people think of each other these days. It's no longer somebody who is another human being. It's just a name. Yeah. You know, and anonymity just makes you that much braver, quote unquote, to be a jerk.
Naturally, yeah. But to bring it back around to politics, though, I think, you know, it's also reflective of the state of political discourse, at least in America now. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I certainly know it's here. Just seeing the responses to Representative Steve Scalise being shot.
Yeah, that's a good
Just
example.
how vitriolic people were, and how they were wishing, that he had been killed instead.
Mm-hmm.
That does not reflect well on. That does not reflect well at all for the state of discourse or those people as individuals.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, what more can you say other than this is fucked up?
Yeah, well, we've remarked on this before. I mean, there was, around the start of the podcast, was that there has, we had 8 years of the Democrats, and I throw this at their feet because they're guilty of it, of the Democrats basically insisting over and over and over again that their opposition doesn't have a point or they're concerned. They are racist, sexist, bigot, homophobes. And when you do that for 4 years, all of your constituents who listen to you, who don't listen to the other side, are going to basically think the same thing because they trust what you have to say. They have faith in you. So all of a sudden, the other guy is not a person anymore. He's this monster who, has like a Nazi flag on his wall and, jerks off stuff while reading Mein Kampf, as opposed to, somebody else who maybe he doesn't think that open borders is a good idea. Maybe he wants lower taxes. Maybe he wants his health care to be cheap and affordable and not be penalized by the government for not having it. Things like that. So that is sort of the unfortunate part of how we've gotten to the point where we're at, is that too many people stoked a fire, and now where we're at as a culture is the direct response to that. We have a political system where everybody hates each other, where there is no even semblance of negotiation, where we have to play these games to get anything done, which in a way has sort of made Donald Trump the perfect president to do it. And because he's playing games that they're not ready to play. I'm not going to say 4D underwater backgammon maga, but he's definitely more clever than they are. But on top of that, you've also got Antifa and the alt-right, which are basically both responses of the political state as it is. Both aren't big groups, but they're both noisy. They both have their areas of operation, and they both wouldn't exist if Barack Obama wasn't such a, pardon my blunt statement, but a shit stirrer. So I hope that answers the question. That was a long. I think that to finish it off for that Orthodox guy, I think that it's just one part of a much larger issue that we have seen over the last couple of years that seems to have no solution in sight.
Yeah.
All right, Audis Whisperer wanted to know, speaking of the Trail of Tears, what our thoughts are on the state of Native American culture with crime and alcoholism. I can't say too much because I don't know enough.
That's about where I'm at too. All I know are that all I'm aware of are the numbers and how they are unusually high.
Yeah.
But I really can't say much about it except for that sucks,
Yeah, and I don't know. I would have to talk with somebody who has lived on a reservation and either doesn't now or does now and isn't suffering from these same problems, who's observed what's going on to really get any sort of perspective, or go there myself, of course. But there's no reservations anywhere near where I live. So I can't really say much about it. I can't really... the only thing that I always say in these sorts of situations is that no one is ever free from agency, that there is always a level of personal responsibility no matter how difficult the situation is. But I think that is basically just a general point across all of humanity, not just these folks in general. So that's really all I can say. Joseph Schnurr wanted to know, if we had all the power in the world, what would you do with it? Get rid of it because it's too much responsibility.
Yeah, that's about what I would do.
I could, if I did any one thing, it would all be personal stuff. I would just basically cut all the fat off my body and give myself all the stuff that I want, and then just get rid of then just surrender that power back and say, all right, God, take it. No, thank you. Because,
yeah,
I've watched, if you want a fun yet honest look at that sort of thing, watch Bruce Almighty.
Yeah.
Probably the last film I've seen that's a comedy that I thought was really good. So, yeah, I can't lie. It would probably be, I would use it for selfish crap and then try to get rid of it as soon as possible. I can't say that, like, with me it would be any different than that film. Except for the whole, like, dragging the moon closer to the Earth. I don't think I would do that. but
yeah, no, because that, tides and...
yeah, I'm a little bit more aware of that than Bruce was in the film.
Yeah. I think the moral of that is, well, yeah, I guess the moral of that is more where I would come from with the whole, all the power in the world thing. We are too fallible. We do not deserve that sort of thing because we would misuse it.
Basically.
And there's no way that I would be able to keep all that power. No.
All right.
With great power comes great responsibility. And
yes. Thank you, Uncle Ben. Speaking of which, I had heard Stan Lee got rushed to the hospital, but he seems to be out again, feeling pretty good. So
yeah, that was yesterday's news, I believe.
Yeah, I had missed it. So glad to hear that he's still with us. Hopefully, he's immortal. I love Stan Lee too much.
He's one of the Watchers.
Yeah. All right. So on the entertainment side of things, Ryan Potter wanted to know when will Danny DeVito ever be canonized? I'm guessing that Ryan's a big fan of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm not. I don't find Danny DeVito that funny.
I like Danny DeVito.
I don't hate him. It's just like, I saw Junior. So I can't like him.
Will he ever be canonized?
No.
Maybe.
We'll leave it at that. I don't know. I watched one episode of It's Always Sunny, and I never really... I didn't think it was that funny. I just, like... Eh.
I haven't seen It's Always Sunny, but... oh, my God. I just think of him in Hercules as Phil.
That one's not too bad. But I don't know. I'm of the opinion that, like, my sense of humor is too dark to where it's like the things that make everyone else laugh just does not make me laugh. It's
So something like Danny DeVito should play Detective Pikachu would not make you laugh at all?
The statement is kind of funny. Watching it, I would probably go, huh? So...
See, I think he would do better than Ryan Reynolds in the role, and apparently Ryan Reynolds actually got cast in that role, so...
Huh.
Yeah, Deadpool is also Detective Pikachu. Who would have thunk?
Whatever. Autist Whisperer had a couple for us. Did we see the first Purge teaser trailer where they made subtle digs at Trump? Like he's going to start the first Purge. Yeah, and that movie's going to flop.
I have not seen the trailer. I saw the poster, and I said, there's no way this is not going to cause a shitstorm.
Yeah, social justice doesn't sell.
It's
going to flop.
It's going to get a lot of buzz, and then it's going to flop. Remember what happened to Ghostbusters?
Yeah, it got a lot of buzz, and then it flopped, because social justice doesn't sell. I will say it over and over again until Christ himself appears outside of my damn window. Because it doesn't. It doesn't sell. People aren't interested in it. You are basically saying to the entire... to the country... that half of the people, all the people who voted for Donald Trump, are the type of people who would kill their neighbor if given the opportunity to do so.
Mm-hmm.
No. Chances are what you would see in that sort of a situation is you would see an entire community wait for the purgers to come out, and then they all come out their front doors with AR-15s and gun them down, and then go back to whatever they were doing. I hate the left sometimes. I'm not sometimes. Most of the time. Because that sort of just that statement disgusts the hell out of me.
I think even beyond that, just, the general people don't like to be preached to, especially in movies and TV and such. Because, they go there to be entertained, or, in some cases they go there for some sort of intellectually stimulating thing, instead of Trump bad, Trump make violent. Like, no, I can go find that on Twitter, and I don't have to pay, $10 for a matinee to see that.
Yes. It's childish more so than anything, I would think.
Yeah.
Sort of like, you don't vote the way I do, so you want to kill X, Y, or Z.
I almost hope, though, that it's a fake out, and it comes across more as like what we were talking about before, like the state of political discourse in America.
Mm-hmm.
But I sincerely doubt that's going to happen.
Yeah, I doubt it would be that nuanced. Alright. Thoughts on the rumors that Anthem is a make or break for EA games? Anthem being the BioWare game where you play as not Iron Man and you have a gun.
Yes, I think really that's going to be. I think it's going to be a make or break for BioWare, really.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I first saw
that.
Yeah,
not so much EA. EA has still got other franchises they can pull from, but BioWare specifically, yes. And the fact that it's already been pushed back to next year does not bode well.
No. I think that BioWare is already in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they recently had Anita Sarkeesian visit their studios is not gonna build trust in their ability to make a good game.
No, certainly not.
So, yeah, it's all this sort of stuff. I think that BioWare is just on life support at this point. Anthem would have to be a huge hit, and wouldn't have to have any sort of backlash that's going to cause a ton of returns. And I don't see it happening. It's basically a Destiny clone. So, yeah, I think that is probably going to end up it'll be done.
I wouldn't be surprised if loot boxes became a regular thing in it too, and that would affect sales.
Well, that's kind of what those games exist for, is to sell loot boxes. It's a little. I see a game like that, and it's almost cynical to me. It's like, so we got another grindy game that is basically the first-person shooter version of Diablo, but here's a ton of microtransactions where you buy a box and you're basically playing that one game from UHF of what's in the box? Nothing! Stupid! You're so stupid! It's that over and over again.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
I'll put it this way. $5, tracer and a thong, that's it. It's that simple. But no.
But what are Polygon gonna say?
I don't care what Polygon has to say.
Or Julia Alexander now. I've noticed she's like the main one raising hell on Polygon now.
Well, her and Kuchera.
Well, I think Kuchera can say it to my fucking face.
I doubt that'll ever happen. What's the difference? I am just convinced that Ben Kuchera is a jellyfish because he has no spine.
And it could be a worm. Well, no, worms have too many hearts, and Ben Kuchera does not have one.
No. All right. Have we seen the Hurricane Heist trailer? That one's from Ryan Potter as well.
I have not.
Why do I have a feeling this is a sci-fi movie?
It might be. It sort of sounds familiar, but no, I have not.
The Hurricane Heist. Massive heist against the U.S. Treasury as a Cat 5 hurricane approaches one of its mint facilities. There is no one of note in this cast. So, no. I know nothing about it. And even reading this on IMDb, weird. I know even less. So, I don't know. I might look into it at some point. I'm not big on heist movies.
Nah, I'm not either.
Alright, Ancestor Empire. Thoughts on Microsoft looking to buy EA, Battlefront 3 being delayed due to backlash, and Anthem being delayed in general. Alright, we already answered the Anthem.
We covered Anthem. I don't think Microsoft's going to buy EA.
No, me neither.
There's no point. There's no point. Why would they need to buy EA unless to buy the properties?
Exactly.
That's and even then, Microsoft doesn't particularly need them. It'd just be. Honestly, I think it'd just be a wasted investment.
Yeah, like the only property, the only big moneymaker for EA right now, like off licensing, on a consistent basis it's both Battlefield and Madden, and FIFA overseas. So
yeah,
like three properties worth buying. It's like you could just buy the properties.
Sports licenses. Yeah, sports licenses would be the big one, but no, because they don't need a publisher because they Microsoft Studios, they already got a publisher there.
Mm-hmm.
EA, why would they need the name EA when it's one of the most hated companies in America? There's no point in having that. So it would basically be for the licenses and the properties that they own, and I guess the studios too.
Houses, yeah.
Yeah, but this. Even then, like that's a whole lot to manage, mm-hmm. and you would the company would be valued in probably the hundreds of billions, I would imagine, just based on sales numbers. So you would have to wait quite some time for a decent return on the investment, and honestly, I don't think it'd be worthwhile for them to do it. I don't think they would do it.
I mean, EA stock has fallen considerably since it's valued at about $124, at the moment, and it's kind of over the course of the year it's actually gone up from March of last year until now, but it's still starting to go back down. And it wouldn't surprise me if it, because around this time last year, you could get stock in EA at about $80. And this is just me looking online, and that's considerably, they've been trending up. So it really wouldn't, I don't see a point in that. So yeah, I don't see it happening. They would much rather compete and release their own games. Battlefront 3 being delayed due to backlash, not surprised by, but no. The question is whether or not they're losing, or they're gonna learn their freaking lesson about the loot boxes. I think that when it comes right down to it, it's not gonna be Battlefront or the next Battlefront or Battlefield that really determines that. It's gonna be EA Sports MMA 3. Not MMA 3, UFC 3. If that game bombs because of microtransactions and loot boxes, then you've got a trend. But as of right now, like I said, their stock continues to is higher than it ever has been, which is the case with a lot of companies right now. And it may be a bubble that might burst or what have you. But regardless, it's, I don't know. I don't think that any of this stuff is going to happen, to be honest.
Have you seen the numbers on loot box sales though.
No.
They've actually been going up, just overall for EA since they started introducing them. They are making quite a bit of money off of them.
I'm not surprised by that.
So it's a matter of whether or not they believe that the profits are worth the negative media backlash, and then people generally just not buying the product. Because if they're making more in loot boxes to cover what people would have spent on new product anyway, then it doesn't really matter to them that much.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always say the market always takes care of itself. And if there isn't a demand for the product, it will not sell. I think that what the internet needs to just sit down and say is that people don't mind loot boxes as much as you'd like to think. And the same goes for downloadable content. Same goes for microtransactions, for all of it. And I think that's ultimately why there are people out there that have praised Democrats for wanting to introduce legislation in regards to loot boxes, is because they couldn't get their way through the free market, so they want to get their way through the government, which I think is freaking despicable. So, yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. And the good thing is that, at least from my perspective, is that we don't have a Democrat majority in the House or the Senate, so any law to try to regulate this sort of thing wouldn't go through. So, all right, Swordsman 101 wanted to know, since I was a fan of Devilman, if I was wondering I ever heard of Shin Megami Tensei. The answer is yes. And if I have what are my thoughts on the law alignment, I can't say. I've never played any of them because they don't look fun.
I'm not a JRPG person.
Neither am I. So. I mean, the issue that I have with it is, like, I saw a guy who's an acquaintance of mine, Sean Faust, from he was part of Channel Awesome around the time I was. He was playing Persona 5 on his live stream, and it looked so boring. Nothing was... not Persona 5, Persona 4. It looked so boring. I just, like... Ugh. And I've watched people play other ones, and here's the thing. The tone looks interesting. The setting in a lot of the not Persona games looks interesting, but I couldn't get into it if I tried. I really couldn't. So, like, the one that really looked interesting was Nocturne. I'm like, okay, this looks like some creepy, awesome stuff, and then I watched gameplay, it just looks so slow. I'm like, oh. So, yeah. No, not my thing. Kamen Rider want to know, would we be willing to check out the anime Cobra the Space Pirate? The character is actually an influence in the creation of Dante from Devil May Cry. I've never heard of it.
No. I'm not huge on Devil May Cry, so it's of no pull to me.
Let me have a look at this. Oh, this is very 80s. Maybe. I can't really say if it would necessarily be in the future for me. I mean, I've got a bunch of other stuff that I'm in the process of looking at, so plus I have vids to work on, and then I'm going on vacation at the beginning of March, so yeah, I can't really, I don't know, maybe someday, we'll see. That's all I can really say, though. Kaito in 1984 wants to know thoughts on the possible Duke Nukem movie starring John Cena.
There is no way in absolute hell that a Duke Nukem movie would be made in current year.
Yes. Not to mention, how you can have a movie starring John Cena? I wouldn't be able to see him. Sorry.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
wrestling humor. Um, that's the last person I would cast as Duke Nukem. Honestly. So, yeah. Unless they're dubbing over all of his lines with John St. John. So
I would if I was doing a Duke Nukem movie, um, Dolph Lundgren would play Duke, and oh god, what's his name from Evil Dead?
Ash Williams? Oh,
Yeah,
that's the character. But
yeah,
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. There you go. I can't believe I forgot his damn name. Um, Bruce Campbell would do all the dialogue, which I know sounds like really kind of weird because he doesn't fit that well with John St. John's tone, but
Yeah.
it's Bruce fucking Campbell. I don't care.
Oddly enough, Lundgren's still in decent shape, it looks like,
Yeah,
for being as old as he is. Yeah, he's 60. But I don't
I'd
know.
do it. I don't care. I'd do it. Why not?
Now, I don't know about Lundgren. I would have Chris Hemsworth, and then dub over his lines with John St. John.
Because why get rid of John St. John?
Basically, he's the immortal voice of Duke Nukem.
But he's also the voice of Big the Cat.
I don't know anything about Big the Cat. Because Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't exist past 2.
Let's move on.
Alright. Last one we have. This is from Ancestor Empire. Says, on the topic of death battle, who would be a good opponent for Geralt of Rivia and or Ciri? Blade. Blade would be a good one for Geralt. Geralt has magic and a sword, and hunts witches, and other such supernatural stuff. Blade basically does the same thing, but he has a gun instead, and sword. I think that would be a really interesting fight. Also, let me think here. For Geralt of Rivia. Ciri would be a good Shadowcat fight. Ciri's a teleporter. Shadowcats can phase, so it'd be interesting to see how that turns out. I'm trying to think of another good one for Geralt. Somebody who's got like similar skills. Well, Elric of Melibone, because that's who he's based on. Conan the Barbarian would be another good one.
Yeah.
By extension, you could have Ciri versus Red Sonja.
What about the Dragonborn from Skyrim? That's a little, stereotypical, I'm sure, but
It'd be hard to say because you don't know anything about the Dragonborn aside from his shouts.
True.
So it's hard to say. Trying to think comic book wise, who would be a good fit?
Because my first thought was we'll just go for Abraham Van Helsing, but
Yeah, that'd be another interesting one.
Girl would wipe the floor with him.
Depends on the version of Van Helsing.
Yeah, that's true. Somebody getting arrested, I guess.
Trying to think. It's hard to say, really, just because there's... Or at least one that I'm thinking of that would be interesting in a sword fight, but would probably lose because she doesn't have any additional powers, is Apollyon from For Honor. Because she's a master swordsman, or swordswoman. But she lost to a weeaboo, so... She lost to somebody from Anime Stan. I can't really think of anybody aside from that. I think Blade would probably be the most interesting of all of them, really. But then again, Gun. That's kind of what kind of hangs that one up. Oh, jeez. Yeah, actually, you know what? Let's go. I'm gonna go with Conan the Barbarian. I think that would probably be the most interesting of them all.
Ah, crap! I'm on fire again.
What'd you do?
Evidently, set myself on fire. Oh, holy crap!
What?
There's 2 fire trucks going after him now.
Oh, hooray!
Gee, I must really be on fire.
Oh, jeez.
Good lord.
What the hell is Jeesh? I just said Jeesh. It's like a mix of G's and Sheesh. You can tell I haven't been awake that long. Ugh. Alright, well that, oddly enough, is the last question that we had. Quite a few this week. About 40 minutes of questions.
Yeah, really. That's...
Well, folks, yep, that is the long and short for this week's version of the Overflow. I think given the earlier question, I'm going to call it Micah Almighty. But regardless, though, we appreciate you guys asking these questions. As of course, we will be back next week with the podcast. Hopefully, you guys will be with us once again, because I don't know about you, Hatman, but for me, like, of all the content creation, the podcast is like my favorite part of it. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
I like doing vids
it's
too, but I have a lot more fun on the podcast more than anything.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Alright, folks, we appreciate you watching. My name is Micah Curtis.
And I'm Alex Baldwin, also known as the Hatman.
And we will see you guys next week. Deus Volt.
Deus Volt.